That's like the epitome, to me, of sports photography. The epitome is like capturing the emotion and capturing the motion. And whatever sport it is, this has always been my favorite thing to look for. And how do you capture like the most animated moment of the game or of the sport? So it's a challenge, and I had to figure it all out.
Though the Associated Press has long covered sports, it was not until 1928 that AP's own photographers began shooting from the fields of play, armed with the 4x5 speed graphic camera. Since then, generations of photographers have created an incomparable visual legacy. Some images made instant cultural or political impact, transcending sport entirely. New equipment and technology have led to vast increases in volume and quality. Of the roughly 3,000 pictures AP moves through its 9 photo desks every day, half are sports pictures. General Manager Kent Cooper did more than anyone else to establish the foundation for sports coverage at AP. A lover of the games, he recognized the popularity of sports among newspaper publishers. In 1923, he named 25-year-old Alan J. Gould to head AP's first sports department. It was a brilliant appointment, as Gould was able to take on the administrative challenge while covering the major sporting events of that year. And what a year it was! Bob Jones won his first national golf championship. Bill Tilden and Helen Wills Moody dominated tennis. Yankee Stadium opened in New York, and Babe Ruth and the Yankees won their first World Series. On September 14, 1923, Gould headed a staff of 6 writers and 3 Morse operators assigned to Jack Dempsey's heavyweight title defense against Louis Angel Firpo at New York's Polo Grounds. Dempsey won by knockout in the second round, setting off bedlam among the 85,000 spectators. The Firpo-Dempsey fight kind of crystallized my own feelings, and perhaps that of the AP so far as my job was concerned, Gould later reflected. I felt more confidence. The point was, at that stage, 1923 and thereafter, we seemed to develop more cohesion and more confidence all around as sports activity expanded. Cooper also recognized that photographs were news. He asked his journalists to develop picture consciousness. As early as 1926, he told the board he wanted a faster way to get photographs into newspapers. After years of research, AP launched the Wire Photo Service on January 1, 1935. For the first time, pictures arrived in the papers the day they were made. Wire photo had obvious implications for sports photography, as Hal Buell explains. Buell served as executive photo editor from 1968 to 1997, just the 5th person to hold that job.
Sports was an ideal subject for photography because, first of all, the pictures were interesting. They were action pictures. Everybody read the sports page. The tabloids especially hit sports very hard, and they hit photos very hard on the sports pages. And the broadsheets were almost forced into using pictures because the tabs were really growing, hundreds of thousands of circulation in the big cities. And so sports photos really enhanced the sports coverage a great deal. Photographers were limited because of the camera capabilities and the film capabilities of the period, but still some great photography came out of those days.
Published with great fanfare, the first sports picture on the network came from the 1935 Rose Bowl in Pasadena, pitting Alabama against Stanford. At the 1935 World Series, pictures were transmitted within 20 minutes of the first pitch, an unthinkable speed for the time. Some newspapers were on the street with photos before the game ended. Wire photo operators joined darkroom staff in the bowels of stadiums. They could develop film and edit and transmit photos on the spot. At the 1936 Olympic Games in Berlin, track and field star Jesse Owens won 4 gold medals, breaking world records in the 200-meter race and the broad jump. The widely published photographs of Owens' dominating performance did more than words ever could to explode the Nazi myth of Aryan physical supremacy, to say nothing of the politically charged medal ceremonies. The growth of the Wire Photo Network paralleled the growth of AP's national photo staff. In New York, 3 of AP's greatest photographers arrived in succession in the late 20s, enjoying remarkably long careers. Harry Harris, Murray Becker, and John Rooney. All were versatile, brilliant shooters.
Murray, in his early days especially, did a lot of photography himself. In later years, he was chief photographer and worked on other issues, developing cameras. He worked closely with Nikon in the development of the first 35 millimeters. In his photographic days, he made some wonderful pictures. He made the great sports picture of Lou Gehrig weeping as he retired from baseball. It is not an easy picture to make. If you don't get it at the right minute, it's just another picture of a guy retiring. But he got the exact thing of Gehrig was not just weeping, but he put his hands up to his eyes, and it said weeping. He didn't have to say it in the caption. It was in the picture.
On October 1st, 1961, Becker, Rooney, and Harris witnessed one of baseball's milestones, the famous 61-61. It was the last game of the season, Boston Red Sox at the Yankees. During the fourth inning, Roger Maris hit a home run, becoming the first Major League player to hit more than 60 home runs in a single season. Babe Ruth had set the record in 1927, and Maris and his Yankee teammate Mickey Mantle spent the 1961 season trying to beat each other to it. The frame sequence reveals how Harris, Rooney, and Becker may have been positioned to ensure someone would get the key picture. The top strip is likely the work of Rooney, who captured the moment before the pitch, the historic hit, Maris watching it go, and Maris taking off around the bases. Rooney was shooting from the stands on the first base side of home plate. The second strip is likely the work of Becker, experimenting with the new 35mm camera from his position in the visitors' dugout. The bottom strip is likely Harris, who captured Maris rounding third and heading home after his home run. On May 25, 1965, Muhammad Ali defeated Sonny Liston in their heavyweight championship rematch that resulted in a controversial first-round knockout. That moment was captured by John Rooney in one of the most iconic of sports images, which won the 1965 World Press Photo Award for sports photography. Positioned at ringside, opposite Harry Harris, John Rooney clutched two 35mm cameras bolted together in a frame, a Murray Becker innovation, one with color film and one with black and white. The fight began about 10:40 p.m. Near the 1-minute 40-second mark, Liston threw a left jab. Ali countered with a quick right, and Liston dropped to the canvas. Ali began pacing about, refusing to stay in his corner, finally standing over Liston and yelling, "Get up and fight, sucker." As Harry Harris recalled,
Muhammad Ali, he was a stiff then. He'd knock him out sometimes with one punch. The guy would get up again. And you're lucky if he got up again. You only hope that they would fall somewhere near you. John Rooney made the picture that'll be always remembered. One of the great boxing pictures of all time.
remembered because this image was more than a celebratory sports photo. It would come to symbolize the fight Ali was just beginning against racial injustice in the Vietnam War. Like Becker, Harris, and Rooney, Harry Kablock was always trying to make a better picture. A native of Fort Worth, he worked for the AP from 1969 to 2009 in Columbus, Pittsburgh, Houston, and Austin. As a boy, he had listened to the police radio at his father's auto body shop, then dashed to the accident scene to make pictures which he sold to the Star-Telegram. Veteran Philadelphia staff photographer Rusty Kennedy recalls working with Harry.
I worked with Harry a lot, yeah. He was an unusual photographer, very talented, very hardworking, and I'd say borderline cantankerous. And if he ever sees this thing, he'll understand what I mean by it. And we did golf tournaments together. We did tons of playoffs, football, baseball, hockey, everything.
Some of his best pictures were made with the Magic Lens, an 800-millimeter lens that was, he said, not so much a lens, but an optical instrument. Harry knew how and when to use that lens.
We started out using, everybody was using them, Nikon Fs, and probably the fastest, longest lens you had was a 300 4.5. The cameras wouldn't gallop fast enough for me, and Leica came out with this great, just killer motor drive and these great lenses, and I had to have them, and I'd do it again.
Kathy Willens, who worked with Kablock, remembers holding a camera at the age of 3. A portrait photographer, her father taught her to develop film. When she joined the AP in Miami in 1976, she was just the second female photographer on staff and often the only female photographer on the field or in the locker room. even after the 1978 decision allowing female journalists access to baseball locker rooms. Miami was made for sports photography. There were intercollegiate teams all over the state. Nearly all the professional baseball teams came to Florida for spring training. Willens covered Miami Dolphins coach Don Shula and 2 Dolphin quarterbacks, Bob Greasy and Dan Marino. There were championship golf and tennis tournaments. Muhammad Ali trained at Miami's Fifth Street Gym. After moving to New York in 1993, Willens began covering Jets and Giants football, Yankees and Mets baseball, and every other major sporting event in the 5 boroughs. She also began using the digital camera, learning on the fly. The first digital cameras, pioneered by AP and Kodak, were hard to adjust to. Exposure was a problem, facial color was always off, but the improvements came quickly enough. Film soon surrendered the field to digital.
When I first covered baseball at Connie Mack Stadium, I'm sitting up in this riser. If there's a play in the outfield, I just watched it. There's no way in the world I could shoot it. And even if I did capture it, the image would be so small and the light so bad, there's nothing I could do with it. But as things got better, then we could start making those pictures. And today, the pictures they make, there's probably nothing that can't be made.
In 1996, Derek Jeter became the Yankees starting shortstop and won Rookie of the Year. One of the most accomplished and charismatic players of his generation, he helped his team win 5 World Series championships and is likely a first-ballot Hall of Famer.
He was my favorite player of all the sports, I think I have to say. He just was always so kind, so much of a team player, the quintessential team player, and always came through in the clutch.
Jeter played his last home game on September 25th, 2014 at Yankee Stadium against the Baltimore Orioles. In the bottom of the 9th inning, with the score tied 5-5, Jeter came up to bat for the 5th time that night. He swung at the first pitch, delivering a walk-off hit that ended the game and a remarkable storybook career at the stadium.
It was, mayhem, but the mayhem was more toward third base, and I'm on first, and Julie Jacobson was there with a picture. I think he leaped in the air. He raised his arms and celebrated right towards her, and she has this great photo, and she did it the right way. And then after that, he came over to first base and was hugging, would it be Sabathia? So that was the picture I liked. But in that moment, he came through, and it was perfect for photos. I was not in the best position for the best photo, but I was happy to have been there, lucky to have been there.
Perhaps sports photographers, more than straight news photographers, come to identify with their subjects. The work is about winning, the picture or the game, about being in the right place at the right time, deploying skill while welcoming luck, preparing mentally for a physical contest. Kathy Willens, who is still shooting after 41 years, puts it well.
You do the best you can wherever you are. That's what I've always done. What else can you do? That's the best you can do. And these players are all examples of it, really.